Hello, everyone. My name is Monica. I am a girl who gets shots every day, and I do them myself. Why? To make myself better. You're going to think it's weird and say, but it hurts. But I'm going to tell you all about it. At the time this story happened to me, I was 15 years old. I loved large handbags because a lot of my things fit in them. One day I went with a friend to a cool cosmetic store, and at the entrance, they wouldn't let me through a special machine. It started beeping like crazy. What the hell? I didn't steal anything. Why is it beeping?
Let me see your purse, ma'am.
What? It's my personal belongings. I'm not going to let any of you guys go through it. Come on, Monty, we're just wasting time now. The store will close soon. Let him check. But I can't. Why not? What's wrong? Do you have anything illegal in there? Ah ha ha, funny. No, I'm going to go. I've got stuff to do. I'll call you later, Gwen. Bye. I got a little uncomfortable. Yes, I had secrets from my friend that no one knew, except for one person, a former acquaintance of mine. He disappeared a few years ago, and since then, I haven't told anyone about it. I went to the nearest public restroom and locked myself in a stall, then took a syringe and my vitamins out of my purse. More often than not, I injected glucose. Why? To feel satiated, like glucose instead of food. You inject it if you don't eat enough, or if you're in a coma. I'm not saying I didn't eat well, I just always thought that medication was the only way to keep myself in good shape. And if we live in a world where that good stuff is plentiful, why not take advantage of the gifts of civilization, right? My love and fetish for shots started a long time ago. In my purse, you could always find alcohol wipes, disposable syringes, and some medicine. I often had them in addition to glucose, saline, 3 types of antibiotics, antihistamines, Ampol for asthmatics, adrenaline, vitamin B, C, nicotinic acid. This is not what you think about when you think of vitamins. Well, and a bunch of other things, but those were the basics. Think about how powerful the science of medicine is, how powerful it is, how many lives it has saved, and how many more will be saved. I dreamed of becoming a doctor. I thought it was my duty. It seemed to me that I was more than capable, that I had a gift because I always remembered things so easily, like the names of drugs and what to mix with what. My mother used to be a doctor, too. She was the one who taught me how to give shots, and then well, never mind. When my mom passed away, my dad got sick, too. Almost immediately after the funeral, he didn't feel well. Dad, are you sick? I can help. Let me give you something.
How?
Mom taught me how to give shots.
What shots? What would I need them for?
To cure you.
But how do you know how to give these things?
I read things on the internet and in books.
And you're sure about it?
But before Dad and I could finish talking, I had already given him one, and he was fast asleep. Don't ask me what I mixed with what. I did it instinctively because I'm a doctor's daughter. My mother was a very cool surgeon and anesthesiologist. She was very appreciated at work, and I was proud that she was my mom. Dad woke up the next morning and felt great.
You do look just like your mother. I feel much better. Thank you, daughter.
You're welcome, Daddy. I started to feel unwell close to lunchtime. I had a headache and went to the bathroom. I remembered how my mom taught me how to give myself injections, and I diluted the medicine, painkillers, and gave myself 1 shot. I, of course, took a long time to adjust, and for good reason. I hit a muscle, but that didn't stop me. The needle got stuck in the muscle. I started to inject the medicine, but it just wouldn't go in. Then I pressed the cap of the syringe with both hands and forced the medicine in. Then I pulled the needle out by force. Instantly, blood spurted back into the syringe, along with the drug. I honestly freaked out, of course, and then the phone rang from the other room. Someone was calling. Oh shit, perfect timing! And before I put my pants back on, I took a step forward and fell belly first onto the floor. I looked back and realized that my leg had gone numb. I hadn't just hit a muscle, I must have hit something else. But the phone was ringing and I needed to answer it, so I decided to crawl like a soldier. After a moment, the phone stopped ringing, and since it was on top of the table, I couldn't reach it anyway. I looked down at my buttock, and only then did I notice that I'd left a red plume on the floor in my wake. It looked like there was a violent fight for life going on in the bathroom. It was unclear who was hurting whom. Making another attempt to get up, I just lay on the floor to wait and fell asleep like that. An hour later, my father returned from work. And imagine his face when he saw his daughter lying in the room with her pants half down, the lights on everywhere, and blood on the floor. Yep, it was a mess. He had already called the police by the time I woke up, and I could barely talk him out of it. Since then, I realized that I needed to practice more, so I started injecting myself more often. Well, how much more often? Every day. I was supposed to become a great doctor, to treat people, and I needed the practice. You know, like all those crazy scientists who develop some new drug and then test it on themselves. I did about the same thing. And after 6 months, I even started liking it. I started getting my shots faster, better, and I became almost a pro. My purse was filled with more and more medicines. I read my mother's medical books, though I had little understanding of them. But that's not the point. I was still a schoolgirl. That's when I met a friend named Charlie. Or rather, he was a friend then. Charlie knew about my new hobby and asked me to stop. Why? What's the big deal? You're not being any better than a junkie. It's not drugs, it's medication. What's the difference? There's a big difference. Look at you, you've got nothing left. Have you ever injected your ass before? Then your legs, your arms. You have no training. How could you even give shots to anyone, let alone yourself? Oh, Charlie, I know all that. You don't know shit. When it gets worse, you'll understand. He and I had a big fight back then, but he called me the same night and said his dog was having another seizure and needed an injection. That's where I came in handy. I went in and gave him the shot, and an hour later, the dog died. When they called the vet, he said that I hadn't calculated the dosage properly. From then on, Charlie stopped being friends with me and he left with his family, and I was alone. I didn't feel good. I felt like I was going back to that feeling when my mom died. That is, I was sinking into depression and didn't even want to use the shots. I got on the internet and read that antidepressants could help me, and I decided to buy them and inject them into me in liquid form, but they were sold under a strict prescription. How good that I still had my mother's stamps, and I was good at forging her handwriting. Thus, I began to give myself higher-level injections. I was getting better. I was even more proud that I was going to be a great doctor. Then I had Gwen. We got along well, only I didn't tell her anything about it. My passion grew stronger and stronger. I started giving injections unnecessarily, even to people who didn't ask for them. My dad would complain about anything, friends, neighbors, and so on. I was sure that I was doing everything right. And then something happened. Something inside me clicked. I realized that I prefer to give injections to people, but not everyone would agree to them every day, and the hospital wouldn't take me. Then I came up with a plan and got a job as a technician at a cosmetology clinic. It was of dubious nature, with cheap prices, but that's what I needed. On the first day of work, while the patients were lying on the couch, I noticed that the beauticians themselves were out. I quickly put on their robes and face masks and went into their office. I introduced myself as their assistant and said that I had to give them a shot. The girl asked what kind of shot. I said it was a sedative and a painkiller, and she agreed. In a hurry, I opened my purse and couldn't find the right drug. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I heard familiar voices in the street. It was them. I quickly grabbed some medication and injected it into the girl's vein. Then I left and changed my clothes. When the beauticians came into the room, I heard shouting. The girl had passed out. Damn, I said to myself, and took an empty bottle out of my purse to see what I'd given her. Turns out, I diluted sleeping pills instead of painkillers. Anyway, she lived, thank God. It was a miracle. They found me quick. I almost went to jail. But before that, they sent me for a psychiatric evaluation. They told me that I was deeply depressed due to my mother's death, and my love of injections was my defensive reaction. It got out of control because, well, I wanted to heal people because I couldn't help my mother overcome her illness, even though she was a medic herself. It's complicated. So I'm getting treated for it now, and I'm not giving anybody shots anymore.